Well, friends, this is a big one. The Supreme Court of Canada has just agreed to hear a case involving Jehovah's Witness congregations and their refusal to hand over personal records to former members. And if you're someone who left the religion like I did, this could change everything. Because many of us don't even know what's written about us or how those records are used years later. And in my case, those records impacted my reputation, my relationships, and even my family. So let's break this down. What actually happened in BC? Well, let's flip over to this article that's out right now. And it's a CBC article. It's latest news here in British Columbia. This was put out November 20th. Supreme Court of Canada to look at a request for religious records through BC law. The Jehovah's Witness congregation kept info from 2 former members citing confidential religious communications. And in the 2024 BC Supreme Court Justice, Stephen Wilson upheld the order requiring Jehovah's Witnesses congregation to disclose records concerning the ex-members. People that break with the church is how it puts it, to the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner. And now the Supreme Court of Canada has agreed to look into the case. Well, the Supreme Court of Canada has agreed to hear a case about an application for access to personal information held by Jehovah's Witness congregations. The congregations withheld information from 2 former members who applied under BC's Personal Information Protection Act for records about themselves on the basis it was confidential religious communications. And the 2 men independently asked their respective congregations for records containing their personal information in 2020, and both were told they could not see the documents concerning their disassociation from Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, after mediation failed, an adjudicator was assigned to look into the case on behalf of BC Information and Privacy Commissioner. And there's a link here. I'll link this article, so if you want to look into more of this, you can. Now, the congregations argued that disclosing the disputed records even to the adjudicator would amount to a violation of their elders' Charter of Rights. We're going to talk about this. Now, the adjudicator found elements of the BC Information Protection Law infringed and constitutional guarantee of freedom of the religion, but concluded the breach was justified under Section 1 of the Charter. The adjudicator ordered that the information be disclosed to her so she could determine whether it had been properly withheld from the requesters. Well, in 2024, BC Supreme Court Justice Stephen Wilson upheld the adjudicator's order requiring the Coldstream and Grand Forks congregations to disclose the records concerning the ex-members that left the church. And the judge said that the duties to disclose imposed by the law are meant to give British Columbians some measure of control over their personal information, and the requirements to disclose information is a tool available to individuals to hold organizations accountable for the collection, use, and disclosure of personal information, Wilson wrote. And it also serves as a deterrent to misuse and allows individuals some measure of control over their personal information. And that's the end of the CBC article that is in the news here, most recently, posted November 20th, 2025. So what does this really mean to us, to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses? Let's talk further. Okay, so the Office of Information and Privacy Commissioner said, show us the records so we can determine if they should be released. The congregation still refused. So the case went to the BC Supreme Court. In 2024, the Justice Stephen Wilson ruled that the congregation must hand over the records to the adjudicator. And he said something incredibly important. Disclosure gives people control over their personal information. And he also said disclosure is a deterrent against misuse of personal data. Now, it's going to the Supreme Court of Canada. The highest court in the country has agreed to take this case, and that means whatever ruling comes next could be national. This could impact Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, the territories, every province in Canada. And people always ask, well, why would anyone want their old JW records anyways? Well, I'm going to put a clip on the screen with some check marks, and we're going to cover them. These are some real-world reasons why you and I will want our records. We want to see what's written about us. Judicial decisions, accusations, elders' notes. It's all personal information. And to know whether they're still counting you as a member. Are they still counting you? We've had reports where they're counting people for years. Like for years. They're leaving them in the system. To know whether you're inactive JWs, you don't want to be in their database, do you? So I would want to know that. And to check for false statements or damaging claims. Many of us, we have no idea what these elders wrote about us. So I want to know what they wrote about me. And for legal protection, these records can matter in custody cases, immigration, criminal defense, or reputational disputes, because you own your own information. And Jehovah's Witnesses are not exempt from the privacy law. They're still an organization. Now, I want to tell you about my story. This was my case. It hit close to home for me. When I left the Jehovah's Witnesses in 2012, I transferred my records to a congregation in Westlock, Alberta, and my goal was simple: let the file die quietly. I never attended, I never met anyone there, and for 8 years nothing happened. And then out of nowhere, things changed. I had turned over an old Bible study as a courtesy to one of the elders, because I wasn't going to handle it. And shortly after, the man I studied with phoned me, upset, and he said he would no longer associate with me. Why? Because the elders told him I was demonized. I had never heard anything like that in my life. So I reached out to the elder and asked a simple question: what is the process for determining whether someone is demonized? And instead of getting an explanation, I received a cease and desist email. Well, this could be a ripple effect, and that's what it was. It went across the circuit. It didn't stop there. The accusation spread not just in one hall, but across all the halls that I had been in. Old friends cut contact. People who once respected me suddenly vanished. And the hardest part, my daughter, who once talked to me occasionally, she stopped completely. And not because of anything I did, but because of something said behind closed doors. Something I still have never been allowed to see, verify, or challenge. So this is exactly why I and thousands of others want access to our records, why this Supreme Court case matters for all former JWs, not for revenge, not to stir trouble, but to know the truth, to understand what was said about us, to protect ourselves legally, and to make sure organizations can't quietly damage our relationships, our reputations, or families through secret files. The Supreme Court's decision could create a national standard, forcing JW congregations to follow privacy laws, preventing misuse of personal records, and finally giving former members the right to see what was said about them. Well, here's a call to discussion. Let me ask you, would you want your JW records? Do you think Watchtower should be exempt from privacy laws? And do you think this will change how JW congregations operate across Canada? Let me know in the comment. And as always, live your life with love. My name is Vern. This is Fixing My Faith. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. Well, before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to thank our Coffee Club supporters. These are the folks who help keep Fixing My Faith going. And I'm scrolling through them right now. And if you see your name, thank you for standing with us. But here's the thing. The best way you can support us is absolutely free. Over almost 60% of our viewers are not subscribed. So if you've been watching and getting value out of these videos, hitting that subscribe button tells YouTube to share this with more people who need it. So subscribe, like, and share. And we also run a completely free community. It's called Ex-JWfriends.com. That's where you can find it on the website, Ex-JWfriends.com. And then on the website, once you go there, there's a link to the private Discord channel. And that's where people have a lot of fun. People share their stories, they get support, and they can connect without judgment. That's what happens there. There's also people that will help coach, life coaches, counselors. There's all kinds of support at Ex-JW Friends. And if you're waking up or just need to talk it out, that's where you want to go. So here's a link on screen in case you want to find it. And we also put a link in the descriptions of all of our videos. You can just go right down there and hit the link to the Discord community. So whether you are supporting through the Coffee Club or just clicking, liking, and subscribing, it all helps spread the message. And we want you to know that we appreciate you. Live your life with love, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.